Welcome to The Explainer. So today, we're jumping into a really provocative lecture from a Korean philosopher. It basically puts an entire generation and our whole idea of progress on trial. And trust me, this isn't just about the past. It's a huge warning about our future. All right, let's just get right into the heart of it with the speaker's main accusation. It's aimed squarely at South Korea's baby boomer generation. The argument is they were handed this golden opportunity, this perfect setup to study and solve society's biggest problems, but instead of stepping up, they just played.
So what was this great failure all about? Well, the speaker's point is that this generation wasn't just, working regular jobs. They were given a critical mission for all of humanity, a mission they didn't even see was there. It was hiding in plain sight, disguised as their everyday work.
And this is where the idea gets really interesting. The speaker completely reframes what a workplace even is. Think about it. A hospital, a welfare center, a government office. These weren't just places to earn a paycheck. They were meant to be social laboratories, schools where you could study the human condition up close.
And this slide, wow, it just lays it all out, doesn't it? The huge gap between expectation and reality. For 30 years, the mission was to be researchers, to analyze people, understand their suffering, and come up with new solutions. But the reality? It was just a job. Clock in, clock out, collect a paycheck, and look forward to a nice retirement.
So you gotta ask, right? After all that time, all those decades in these so-called labs, what was the final report? What did they actually produce? According to the speaker, the answer is pretty brutal. Basically, nothing. No research, no new data, no breakthroughs. Just a generation that used up all the resources without creating any new wisdom to pass on.
And this is where it gets personal. Because this massive failure to produce anything of value, well, it leads to a pretty shocking conclusion. It forces us to rethink a word we all think we know, and you might be surprised who fits the new definition.
So, are you? Now, before you jump to answer no way, just hang on. Because the speaker's definition of this term, it has almost nothing to do with what's in your bank account.
Yeah, look at this list. It's not who you'd expect at all. We're talking about powerful CEOs, politicians, even parents and religious leaders. According to this philosophy, if a CEO feels trapped in their role or a parent can't figure out how to raise their child properly, they're on this list.
So here it is. This is the new definition. A welfare recipient isn't someone without money. It's anyone who feels like they aren't living the life they're supposed to. It's that feeling of being stuck, of being constrained, of not being able to fulfill your role as a proper human in this modern world. That's the real poverty here.
Exactly. So the real problem in society isn't a lack of cash, it's a lack of true education. And we're not talking about school subjects, we're talking about a fundamental education on how to live. It's a problem that hits everyone, from the top of the corporate ladder to the family dinner table, because nobody's been taught how to navigate this new era we're in.
Okay, so for this huge generational screw-up, for producing absolutely zero new wisdom, the speaker lays out a pretty chilling prophecy of what's coming next.
And listen, this isn't just some vague, bad things are going to happen prediction. No, this is framed as a direct consequence. It's like cosmic cause and effect. The idea is that if you're given all the tools and resources and you produce nothing with them, well, a bill is going to come due.
And it gets specific. He actually puts a timeline on it. This period of observation, he says, started back in 2013. But the key date is 2025. That's when the observation period is over. And, as he puts it, the whip falls. That's when the real difficulty begins. A time when society will be led astray by con artists because no one bothered to cultivate any real wisdom.
So, how on earth did we end up here? Well, according to the speaker, the entire problem, this whole generational mess, it all comes down to one single fundamental issue: our complete misunderstanding of what knowledge actually is.
And this is where you might need to buckle up, because this idea really challenges everything. The speaker draws a hard line in the sand. On one side, you have knowledge, the stuff we learn in books, which he says is actually the problem. And on the other, you have true education, which is the solution. And what's that? Simply learning how to live properly.
And I mean, think about how radical that is. The argument is that the stuff we value so much, our knowledge, our facts, our data, it's basically obsolete software. It was designed for a primitive time, not to enlighten us, but to control us, to make us into good little cogs in an old machine. It was never meant to help us live full, proper lives today.
And that brings us to this staggering number. Zero. We are literally drowning in information in this old knowledge, but we have received exactly zero new tools, zero real education on how to actually live in this complex world. And that's why, in the speaker's view, we are all welfare recipients.
Which leaves us with this massive, kind of terrifying question, right? If the knowledge we have is just a trap, if our institutions completely failed to find a better way, and if everything we've been taught is actually part of the problem, then where the heck do we even start to find the real education we so desperately need? That's the challenge he leaves us with.